In the heart of China, baby. The enterprise block. The missionaries and the visionaries. Take the hot spot. Entrepreneurial intelligence and skills. Here at GBC. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it. Do it. Here at GBC.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Like Nike.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Do it. Do it. 许愿之后，梦想就会实现。如果你相信你就会有这种感觉。
We can have interaction with the camera.
这条奇大路，
Sometimes you watch to the camera.
It's a conversation.
创业在世
The sound here going up.
Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs.
There are millions of people are watching that.
The entire world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna take 2 minutes. It is on the loop.
GBC. Let's go.
Okay, awesome. So today we have Patrick standing for talking about how a startup can grow 10 times faster. We're going to discuss about this topic, but before starting talking and discussing about this topic, I just want to give you a sort of small introduction about Patrick. Patrick Santing is a serial entrepreneur, strategist, and change maker who is passionate about developing business models for and assisting companies to manage the transition to a sustainable and abundant future. Patrick is a founder of the Greater China offices of the international sustainability advisory nonprofit, The Natural Step, and CEO of Shanghai-based innovation arm, Thrive Together, which is mentioned as 2TL, or T2L actually.
T2L.
Yeah. And he has over 20 years of experience as a strategy and management consultant in areas of performance improvement, change management, strategy, M&A, and sustainability. Patrick is also a member of Global Expo Network of Exponential Organizations Consultants. Patrick, thank you so much for being here. And that's a great moment that we can talk about the topic that we have. But
Sure.
before starting, just you can have a sort of brief introduction, what you have done, how you got in China.
Of course, Morris. First, thank you very much for having me here on GBC Live. It's my honor and pleasure. Yeah, so what brought me here to start with, I think I've been doing business in and with China for more than 10 years. As a consultant, mainly. Been based in China now 5 years roughly. From Sweden originally. And been working across the field, started in sort of factory performance improvements, moving on to change management and supply chain and M&A and all kind of stuff. And it was about 5 or 6, 7 years ago now that I kind of got into the field of business model innovation as well as sustainability. After reading a book called the New Capitalist Manifesto that talked about closed-loop business models and stuff like that. And that got me passionate as a strategist in trying to create these kind of structures and really help the world to be more sustainable, I think.
Perfect. As today we are going to talk about how a startup can grow 10 times faster.
Yes.
That's the tastiest topic that we would love to hear about that we want to see what is it and how it is and how did you get into this, that
Right, yes.
to come up with this topic.
Exactly.
Make everyone interested in that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fascinating topic, and for me, I think I've been introduced to the idea of exponential technology through the chairman of the Natural Step, who graduated from Singularity University in 2010, I believe. And Singularity University, for those who don't know, is based in NASA Ames, California, Silicon Valley. And they teach about technologies that are exponentially increasing in their price performance. Basically, Moore's law, you might know, on computing, doubling every 2.5 years or so. And now there's a suite of such technologies: AI, 3D printing, robotics, synthetic biology, drones. Even solar is on a doubling pattern, and all of these things are driving us from a world of scarcity, where companies normally was designed to manage scarcity and to sell that and to profit from it in a linear way, into a world of abundance, where everything is becoming available locally, very cheap, at zero marginal cost. And it's those technologies that are enabling a new breed of organizations that we call EXO, or exponential organizations. And it was kind of an idea that come from one of the co-founders or early directors of Singularity University, Salim Ismail, who was the founding executive director of SU. He wrote a book in 2014, I believe, called Exponential Organizations, after he had researched, looking at what is driving the so rapid growth of many of the new startups in Silicon Valley, like originally Uber, but then Facebook and Google and Facebook and Uber and Snapchat and all of those. Right?
Airbnb as well.
Airbnb, yes, exactly. And he distilled this deep research into the sort of framework of what he called exponential organizations.
So he actually, what he did, he did a study on all these companies, that how they had so fast, rapid growth. So he studied on that, and then he got the model that how they grew actually.
So by understanding what made them grow, he sort of condensed it into a model with a couple of attributes that
which is good.
Yeah,
beautiful. Can you tell us about that model, what that model is and how it is?
Sure. So it's kind of and this is where the link to sustainability is so strong as well, because he identified that almost all of these companies have what he calls an MTP, which is sort of a higher purpose of existence, rather than just a product service making profit, but you exist for a reason of doing good or whatever, right? And that is what underpins and enables this growth in many ways.
MTP. What it goes for? MTP.
MTP. Yeah, it stands for Massive Transformative Purpose, and it's basically the reason why you as a company or a startup should exist. So what good are you doing to the world or to the people in this world? And why should I care if you exist or disappear, if you get disrupted or not? So companies that, like Apple or others, that are able to create a passionate following of people, right? They usually have a good MTP. Google, for example, their MTP is to organize the world's information. It's rather big and massive, right? Undertaking. Tesla is to transition the world to sustainable energy. It's not to sell cars. That's just a means for achieving a higher end.
Now, can you say that the purpose, it means the purpose is not first the money, it's not profit to make. Purpose is bringing a sort of change, bringing a sort of impact on every aspect of society that we have.
Yes. To tackle the world's biggest problems. So Peter Diamandis, one of the co-founders of Singularity University, usually says that the world's biggest problems are also the world's biggest opportunities, right? Awesome. And so if you can create a company that helps to improve the lives, improve poverty, or help us to get renewable energy, or improve education levels, or access to clean water and things like this, and to design your company to achieve that higher purpose, that would be a massive transformative purpose, to make a dent on those big problems.
So you said that there's a kind of formula. I mean, there are some parts.
Right.
So the one of the part that you talk about that is MTP.
MTP, yes.
Is there other parts or other aspects that we can have a look?
Sure. So it's all about embracing the fact that the exponential technologies are driving us from a world of scarcity towards a world of abundance where things are readily accessible, usually in digitized format, and the MTP underpins the EXO model, but then you have both internal and external attributes to enable this growth. And the external attributes is called scale.
A scale.
Scale, and the internal ones he calls ideas. IDEAS. So it's all acronyms.
So if we want to just have it in these parts that you mentioned is MTP, then it goes for a scale, then it goes for ideas.
Yes.
The scale, is it the meaning of a scale itself, or this is a sort of acronym again?
It's an acronym that basically stands for 5 ways of tapping into this external world of abundance. And the first one then in the scale acronyms, the S stands for staff on demand. So basically to tap into external resources. C is for crowd and community. So once you have this massive transformative purpose that people get passionate about, that they are interested in, they want to they form a community, or enables you to form a community around this to tackle this big challenge. And so to manage that community is part of this C acronym in scale. And then A is algorithms, basically a way to manage all this abundance of data that you have and turn that into something valuable, right? L in the scale acronym is for leveraged assets. So the EXO exponential organizations, they no longer own and control a huge amount of capital or fixed assets, right? So they rent, they borrow, they lease. Amazon Web Service, for example, enables startups to cheaply tap into computing power in the cloud and storage, etc. Right?
Yeah. And what about E?
E is for engagement. It's to engage the external world. It could be through gamification. X Prize is one where you actually award a prize for the winning team or proposal to solve a big challenge.
Okay.
And then you actually get lots of teams competing, but you only pay for the winning one.
The GBC prize. Yeah.
The GBC prize is a good example, exactly.
Yeah, so okay, let's go for MTP. We had to talk about MTP, then you talk about scale, and then you talk about ideas.
Yep.
But yeah, for now we are on a scale. Actually, we're going to talk about a scale and what a scale exactly is, which Patrick gave sort of a brief explanation. But I want to get into that for more details for our audience and viewers to understand what exactly a scale is. So.
Right.
For the scale that we have as the first one was staff
on demand.
On demand. So staff on demand. Let's put a sort of case on that.
Right,
Imagine that it's Uber company. How we can talk about the staff on demand? What it means.
So Uber or any similar
Airbnb
company,
or similar company
could, for example, instead of hiring their own programmers or marketing team or what have you, they can tap into external networks of freelancers, for example. So freelancer.com, you have GitHub, you have Topcoder. People who are somewhere in the world. It could be India, it could be Russia, it could be US, it could be China, right?
It's all about crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing, getting somebody who is not on your payroll to work on your behalf, basically. So you tap into that. So make the salary cost variable instead of fixed, in a sense, for the company.
Staff on demand. Good. Then we go for a community and crowd that you mentioned in the scale. So
and that's a very important one. So it all boils down to having a massive transformative purpose to tackle one big problem that engages people. And so if you're into solving poverty, for example, there probably is already lots of different communities that are passionate about that. And if your startup has a solution, maybe it's an app or a physical product for that, you can tap into that existing community and get them engaged and actually buying your product or service, or even marketing it on your behalf, right? So create word of mouth, etc. If your idea is unique in the sense that it doesn't have a community existing, then you, through your massive transformative purpose that appeals to people, you can create your own community of followers, basically.
So followers in that community actually is a sort of making community. It's a sort of difficult process.
Yes.
If we get into current community, that would be much easier, and it's going to be awesome if we can bring something new, which the community is existed. Then we need to bring something new. But
Right.
if we want to create community, let's get into example of like, does Airbnb has community?
Airbnb. I'm not a big Airbnb user myself,
Or
so
let's
I don't
say-
know. But let's say, I mean, Xiaomi, a local
yeah.
example, right? The handset manufacturer. They have quickly grew and became famous and had loyal fans in China. Of course, it was cheap. It had good functionality. They had lots of events to make their customers engage with them in a sense, and that built a community. And then they are tapping into that community to actually user test the products, to provide suggestions for new features and services, and so the community turns into kind of staff on demand in a sense that they provide all of these ideas to Xiaomi.
And then algorithm. So
Yes.
algorithm.
So algorithm, of course, most companies today use algorithms in one way or another.
Algorithm. We are talking about the process, some procedure, how you deliver your product, or
So yes, or to actually tap into the abundance of data that exists, because data is more and more becoming what is valuable in a company. So Facebook and Google and others, of course, are collecting all of this data about preferences, about user behavior, etc., and then apply deep learning or whatever it's called, right? Some sort of algorithm to mine that data and turn it into decision making or useful information that they can process.
I just want to flashback for those audience that they already joined us. I don't know how much they were late or not, but we are talking about how a startup can grow 10 times faster.
Yeah.
Or it can be 15 times. I mean, the purpose here, that how we can have our startup grow faster and faster, and we talk about three parts. There's a sort of formula for that. It's MTP and a scale and ideas. Where MTP goes for massive transformative purpose.
Yeah.
And it goes then a scale goes for a stand on demand, community, algorithm, leverage, and leverage asset.
Leverage assets, yes.
And engagement. So we are in the second part of a scale. A scale goes for it's the acronym names. Then we go for ideas. What ideas goes for? So then again we go back to it. So the leverage, how would it be the leverage in companies?
So
in
leveraged
startups?
assets, yeah. So it's basically, instead of owning a big building, you may rent or use a co-working space. So then you're leveraging someone else's assets. Airbnb is a good example of a company built on sort of the sharing economy, right? Suddenly, the customer may also provide their apartment for renting out, right? So Airbnb doesn't own the flat, but they work on the transaction of renting out the flat and earns money from someone else's assets. So a startup would be, again, using the cloud services and other rented equipment.
I have a question here. As we talking about leverage, so leverage assets. So like, let's mention some companies here, like Mobike, yeah.
Yeah.
So for people can be much more clear what we are talking about. If you guys, I don't know how it is, or are you looking for any ideas? If we make a sort of device for available, for those who have their bicycle, yeah, so they can install it on their bicycle or bike, and they can rent it out. I mean, people they can use it, but there should be a sort of good application, good, I don't know,
And security, that they don't steal it or rub off the
platform
code.
that can protect all the things. It
Yes.
means that as long as I locked, it's like Airbnb, yes. Airbnb is just people's. They just can lock their their room and they can protect it. But what about bikes? Because they're gonna move from one place to another place. It's not fixed like Airbnb.
It's a challenge.
Well, yeah, it's a challenge. So let's go for engagements.
And so engagement, yeah, as we mentioned, it's like the X Prize or gamification. You could have something that engages
Engage people.
the outside world with you, right? To make them want to interact with you.
Nice. So let's go for, as our time is limited, let's go for, again, we had MTP and Scale, and now we go for Ideas. Ideas is the acronym for what?
It's the acronym for, so if Scale was how to tap into the external abundance that is becoming more and more available, Ideas is how a company should be set up internally to actually manage that abundance. And so it starts with the I in Ideas, which is interface. So again, tapping into perhaps all the data, etc., that the algorithms is generating, or the ideas from the crowd, etc. So you have an interface to the outside world of abundance. D stands for dashboards. So it gives the company an overview of maybe in real time how it's performing. Google, Facebook, etc. are extremely data driven in their decision making, and they have these dashboards to give them indications on a real-time basis, right? And even retailers nowadays is getting more and more kind of live point-of-sale data, etc., to make decisions.
Then interface for I, dashboard for D, and what about
So the E?
E and A and S?
So E stands for experimentation, and this is a sort of a core thing about the EXOs, that they want to make intrapreneurs. They want to enable innovation internally, and so to allow for experimentation, to even reward failure. The typical, as everyone knows, the Silicon Valley culture of failure is not the end of things, right? It's a way to learn. If you haven't failed, you haven't done anything interesting, right?
So there have been, some platforms that they haven't had any. The founders or co-founders, they haven't had failures, but they went, to a good process. Well, we could say that they were lucky, sort of, as well. But it's not all about luck,
True.
But sometimes, it's a matter of timing. It's a matter of right product. Do you have the right people? Everything comes together perfectly, which it can make your startup awesomely, famous, or people, they would love to use your product, or
sure. But I think one example of experimentation is that in today's world, you can go, for example, on Kickstarter, and you can rapidly test a new product. Instead of spending years developing something, you have an idea, you put it on Kickstarter. That's kind of a quick user testing. You get feedback if anyone wants it. If it wins the Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign, then you actually go ahead and finish the prototype. So
that's perfect.
It's kind of rapid iteration and testing.
Actually, it really helps that people, they do not. Those entrepreneurs those startups that they don't waste their resources. In a matter of time or money and many other resources. It's really good. What about autonomy?
So autonomy is really a key here, and it goes back again to enable experimentation as well. To have you realize that smart people don't really like hierarchies usually, right? So they want to be able to do their thing, and autonomy is basically an organizational structure, a flat structure, right? So in many cases, in Valve software, or even Zappos, a shoe online retailer in the US, they're testing holacracy, which is one model of autonomy. But it's basically to hire based on fit. Do they believe in your massive transformative purpose? Are they passionate? Do they have the right attitude? And then once they're in, they can self-select. They can join an interesting project. They would have no manager to tell them exactly what to do, right? So this is again to spark creativity and to have quick decision making in today's world of exponentially advancing technologies, disruption happening from anywhere. You can't have a top-down hierarchy where the guy at the top, who has been around for 40 years perhaps, who thinks he's an expert but is unaware of what's going on outside, right? To have that person make all the decisions is
You mean this kind of a structure can help companies make decisions faster and to be faster because the market is crazy. I mean, things
Right.
are happening fast, and you have to be a really good decision maker to make
Yes.
decision really fast,
Yeah.
which make your company so flexible, and well, in another side, you can compete with your competitors. I mean, if your competitors finds out the trend earlier than you, and they act faster, then
Right.
you're gonna be, at the back. So what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? So let's go for, as you said, the ideas. And the S goes for
The
what?
S is the social, so it's to have internal social platforms to enable communication in real time. You could have Slack is a popular tool right now for internal messaging. It used to be other tools, and so using that social dialogue to more for a company to reach $1 billion of valuation or revenue. Now, Snapchat, Oculus Rift, etc., are doing it in less than a year, from founding to $1 billion.
That is insane.
And that's insane, and that's what's possible if you can leverage both exponential technologies and then designing your organization to tap into that.
But these founders, they knew that they have to do it, or they have to go through this model, because we want to see our viewer that if you don't know these things, that happened by what? I mean,
Sure.
did they know that about?
No, they did not know that. So I think the book is kind of crystallizing, synthesizing, and building a formula or a framework around what all those companies have done, right? To put a name on it or building a model from it, right? So those companies were able to do it without knowing it, but of course these things have been sort of building on each other for many years, since Google was founded, since Amazon Web Services and cloud services came. All of this has kind of more and more been implemented by companies to some degree or another.
I think it can be a sort of Bible for startups.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the golden
everyone
book.
should try and adopt some of it.
Yeah, of course. We have to have that book here, and I would love to just give it as a gift to our community.
Right.
Yeah, that is really awesome. So the last thing, as our time is limited, actually we passed our standard time.
Yes.
So I would love to, on behalf of our company or on behalf of our community, we'd love to hear a sort of advice about the startup. What's your advice to all the startups in China and out of China?
Right.
What is your advice?
Advice. Well, there are obviously many things, and given that disruption now can come from anywhere, I think it's even more vital to think about your MTP. Right. That's where you should start. To think about how you can. What's your role in this world, right? Why do you exist? Why would I, as a customer, buy anything from you? Because if you are part of the problem, if you're polluting, if you're using people, if you are making me unhealthy by using your product, there's really no place in this world for you. But if you can help solve different things in a good way, then you make me loyal. I become a fan, and then the whole thing has a potential of exploding, right?
Thank you so much, Patrick Sandin. Really appreciate for your presence. Hope to have you in this session again.
Thank you
so
very much, Morris. It's been a pleasure.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
And really appreciate our audience, our viewers, and hope for the next time we will inform you a week ahead that you can have a look of all the sessions that we have. So really appreciate. Hope to see you again here.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
All right, cool.